What's up, everyone? Welcome to Fed by Fire. I'm Christian Whitlow. Tonight, I want to do something a little different, a little more mysterious, a little more dark, a little more strange, if you will. Tonight, I want to talk about one of the strangest, most disturbing programs the CIA has ever ran, and it's called What's up, guys? Welcome to Fed by Fire. I'm Christian Whitlow, and tonight I wanted to do something a little different, a little dark, a little mysterious. We're going to be talking about one of the strangest, most disturbing programs the CIA ever ran. And if it's this, we're talking the CIA, they've done some pretty diabolical shit throughout history, and that's what we're going to be looking into. But this particular thing we're going to be looking into is called Project Artichoke. So in 1954, a CIA memo asked a very, very specific question. Can an individual be made to perform an act of attempted assassination involuntarily under the influence of artichoke? Question mark. And that's not a movie plot, that was a real discussion. And to understand why they were even asking that, you have to go back to the early Cold War, the Korean War, and what was going on. And American prisoners of war were coming home, and a lot of people in intelligence circles believed that they'd been brainwashed, and the fear was that the Soviets and the Chinese had figured out a way to control people's minds, and that America was behind when it came to this. So the CIA decided that they needed to catch up fast. And it started in 1950 under the name Project BLUEBIRD. On August 20th, 1951, they renamed it to Project Artichoke, and by 1953, it was already feeding into the much bigger program we know today as MKUltra. The Artichoke name itself mostly fades out by the mid-1950s. The real goal was bigger than just better interrogations. A 1952 memo put it pretty bluntly that we can get control of an individual to the point where he will do our bidding against his will and even against fundamental laws of nature such as self-preservation. And that's the heart of Artichoke. So what did they actually try? That's what we're going to talk about. They looked at drugs like LSD, sodium, pentanol, morphine, and a bunch of others. They studied hypnosis, they studied total isolation and psychological pressure. They combined these things and thought how to deliver them secretly through foods, drinks, cigarettes, even medical treatments. The most famous document from this period is that 1954 memo about creating an involuntary assassination. Described a specific kind of person, a foreign national, about 35 years old, well-educated, happened to be a heavy drinker. The plan was simple on paper: to drug him with a cocktail at a social event, apply artichoke techniques, later trigger him to attempt an assassination either against a foreign politician or, if necessary, an American official. Some copies of the memo have a handwritten note that says simulated only. And, whether that was the original plan or a later addition, we don't fully know. This wasn't just theoretical. So, artichoke teams are made up of interrogation specialists, drug experts, psychiatrists, and they actually used these methods in the field. There are reports of them successfully using drugs and hypnosis on suspected double agents, getting information, in some cases producing total amnesia afterward, so the person wouldn't remember what happened whatsoever. The project started under the CIA's Office of scientific intelligence. Around 1952, responsibility shifted more towards the Office of Security. Other parts of the agency got involved too, along with military intelligence and even coordination with the FBI. By 1953, a lot of work was absorbed into Project MKUltra, which became a much larger and more wide-ranging thing. That Artichoke was really the early, more focused version. It was heavily centered around interrogation and control. MKUltra took those ideas and expanded them dramatically. Most of what we know comes from declassified documents released through the FOIA, the Freedom of Information Act, if you don't know what that is. The investigations in the 1970s and the work of researchers like John Marks, who wrote The Search for Manchurian Candidate. A huge amount of original files were, you guessed it, destroyed. So even now the picture is incomplete. There's no solid evidence that they ever successfully created a reliable Manchurian Candidate assassin, but what they did do was real non-consensual experiments on human beings in the name of national security, and that left a long shadow that both in how the public views intelligence agencies and in the culture. The whole idea of mind-controlled assassins didn't come out of nowhere, and if I told this to somebody who didn't probably see it in front of them, they would probably think I was talking crazy talk. But it from programs like this, Project Artichoke was real. The ambition was extreme, and there are a lot of details that are still missing, and that's the story. And I've always been heavily interested in MKUltra, and this is just the beginning. I'm starting a whole series on my YouTube channel. We're gonna sit around and chill and look at declassified documents and just go over them. So if there's more things that you guys would be interested in me covering in this series, you can comment down below.